evening, peoples, and welcome back to our living room with me and Gingersnap here for our Tuesday evening Bible study. Not that I went anywhere last week because there is, as you know, a plague going on, but I did take last week off mostly to sleep and watch Oscars movies. It's my Super Bowl. Anyway, so I thought we would kick off a new series, and since for some reason I have received more than one email about the Yul Brynner movie over the past couple weeks, the Ten Commandments were on my mind, so here we are. Technically, Charlton Heston was the bigger name advertised for that movie, but I like Yul Brynner better as a person and as an actor, and also as a character. He was more interesting. Not the point. I mean, obviously you're rooting for Moses, but Yul Brynner as Pharaoh was a great character. Not the point. Not the point. I know you missed how off the point I get. A lot. Anyway, so we're looking at the Ten Commandments, which are found in the book of Exodus, chapter 20. They're also recounted later in Deuteronomy in a slightly abbreviated form. So, let's start by reading them. Then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of parents, to the third and the fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses God's name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female slave, or ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. This is the word of the Lord. So you might notice, I did stick numbers in there of where we understand the commandments to be, but you might notice that the text itself does not say, hey, these are the 10 commandments, or this is the first commandment, this is the second, etc. It doesn't say anything about there being 10 of them. So it is just endlessly fascinating to me that we decided that there were 10 of them. Because technically you could definitely count them out as being more than 10. In the entire Hebrew Bible, there are in fact 613 commandments. So there's a lot of rules outside of these 10, but these are the, big ones. So we understand the 10 commandments as following: to be 1, God alone is God. Don't worship any other gods. Oh, also there's fun hand gestures. So 1, there is one God. 2, don't bow down before other gods. There's not 2 gods. There's just the one. And many of these are very much a stretch. So 3, don't misrepresent God's will. So it kind of looks like a W for like words, and words matter. Matter. Words. Some of these are a stretch. So 4, keep a Sabbath day. So the thumb is resting. 5, honor your parents. There's a couple different ways of doing this one. One is like a salute, which I think is cheesy. I think of it more as like the hand, this is a unit. you're keeping them all together. You're not counting, 2 or 3 or whatever. It's all of keep the unit together. So 6, don't murder. Don't shoot people. It's just don't do it. Don't murder. I shouldn't have to say this, but don't do it. So 7, when 2 people stand in front of God and their community and make promises, those vows mean something. So 8, don't steal or you go to jail. 9, don't lie. This is 9. And of course, don't covet is 10. Very cheesy, but if it helps you remember any of them, then it works. It's cheesy. So anyway, this is how we number them out. But if we were Jewish, we would be numbering them out this way, which is slightly different. So we have, for number 1, there is one God, don't worship other gods. But the Jews understand number 1 to be God alone is God, as like a statement. And then the second one combines no gods and no idols, which I think is really interesting. We usually refer to the beginning bit of I, the Lord your God, brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, as the prologue to the 10 Commandments. But as originally understood, that was the first, it's kind of a pretty central, thing, that God alone is God. So if we were Catholic, theirs is quite different from ours. And I don't recall offhand who decided which way things went. Lutherans also have a slightly different one, which I didn't type up. So in the Catholic Church, the first commandment is understood to be God alone is God, and don't have other gods, and don't have idols. So that's combining 2 for us, so it's interesting. And then at the end of it, it separates out don't covet your neighbor's wife, separately from don't covet their animals or house or slaves or whatever stuff. So it's interesting that those are pulled out separately anyway. But it's however you count them. There's 10 of them, we decided. Today, or tonight rather, I guess, I thought we would look at the first commandment as we read them, which is, you shall have no other gods before me. So what does it mean to have a god, especially a capital G God? The answer today would probably be pretty different than it would be in Moses' time. So not to make broad sweeping generalizations of ancient history, that is not my area of expertise in history by a long shot. So generally speaking, in the ancient world, it would be pretty unusual to only have one god. You would have a god of the earth and a god of the seas and a god of the skies and a god of the bean market. Not even making that up. There is a god of the bean market in the Roman pantheon. There might be a god of fish or dead fish, like for eating. God of war and god of love, and just lots and lots. In most ancient religions, there would be far more than one god. Interestingly, King Tut's father did want the country to be monotheistic, and so Tutankhamun's name was originally Tutankhaten, I think, because Aten was the one god, and then that wasn't really going very well for his father's popularity, and so he went back to having all of the gods, and so he changed his name, and that is, again, with the neither here nor there. But occasionally you have a one god religion, but for most part, it's more than one god. But our God is big enough and powerful enough to be the God of the seas and of the skies and of the earth and of the animals and of the bean market and everything else in existence. So we're not dividing up the credit for the universe to a bunch of different beings, because we understand that our God is powerful enough to be everything. But in this day and age, of course, there are still plenty of religions that have many more than one god, but it's not unusual to just have one. But we also, at least in the Western world, don't see gods necessarily the same way. So I was texting about the commandments with a friend this afternoon, as you do, as is a perfectly normal thing that everyone does all the time, I'm sure, definitely. Anyway, so we were discussing maybe what is a more modern parallel. So I would think maybe that having other gods is like pledging yourself to an organization or institution and having that as the forefront of your life. So that might look like really intense nationalism or CrossFit, throwing shade at the CrossFit people. Some of them take it very seriously, or if like one thing is just the center of your life, that might be something like having a god. But we don't quite think of gods that way in the Western world. So anyway, so what gods are tempting to us in our context today? Maybe things or ideals that encourage us to place them just at the forefront of our lives, and things that take the majority of our time or our money or our interest. Because what you spend most of your time or money or energy thinking about or working towards or doing, that can very much become something like a god to you. That is what drives your being. So Jesus tells us, I happen to have this on a bracelet. Jesus tells us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So does this commandment to have no other gods before our one God kind of fall under that bigger commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, and love your neighbor as yourself. I would definitely say yes. And I would also definitely say, and I'm not unique in saying this, that any reading of the Bible that does not encourage you to love God with all of your being and to love your neighbor is not a valid reading of the Bible. I also have, or I guess used to have, a bracelet of the Ten Commandments, but the elastic broke and I keep meaning to restring them. It's kind of cute. It's in the King James version. So this one is, thou shalt remember to keep the Sabbath holy. And it was a cute bracelet. Anyway, things that appeal to me. So anyway, is this commandment still important for us to follow today? And because we definitely are hearing it in a way differently than Moses was. We don't live in a land where all of our neighbors are, worshiping a dozen or more gods. We're not being encouraged to do that as well, probably, most of us, generally speaking. But there are so many things in the world, so many things. We have the access to knowledge of other cultures and foods and music and religion, far more things that anyone in Moses' generation would have ever imagined. And we are definitely bombarded with things that we might place at the forefront of our lives and treat as something like a god. And that is always something to be aware of. Not that there aren't very valid things in the universe that you should spend a lot of energy towards, if that's some kind of nonprofit or an organization that rescues animals or something that helps people, or libraries. I love libraries. I miss libraries. Haven't been in one in quite a while. Another tangent. Anyway, there are plenty of things that are good to pledge yourself to, but maybe be careful that doesn't take up all of who you are and where you place God in the universe. That God is always above all things, and that no one else is, placed on the shelf to block out God. That there will be no other gods before our God. So anyway, I thought that we might look through all of the commandments. They are something that are kind of central to our understanding of Judeo-Christian ethics. And as being very central things, we might pass them off as being very basic. But they're also worth giving some thought to every now and then, especially since some of them seem extremely straightforward, but there's some fascinating ethical nuances that can come out of them. Anyway, so we will gather again for the next commandment next week. Gingersnap is very excited for that. She missed Zooming and live streaming last week, I think. She likes it when I'm a captive audience in this chair to do nothing but pet her. Anyway, so I hope that you all are well and have been well in my absence. And I also hope to see some of you tomorrow night at our Wednesday evening prayer service. So come here. Good night, peoples. Until we see you again.